So I think I'm going to start with BKG. Yeah, so BKG is the web portal for our reporting. So you can get all this reporting. So if you get to the BKG slide, that one, yeah. So it's the web portal where you can access remotely any of your sales reporting, keg levels, and a few other things. But yeah, you don't have to go to the server. You don't have to be on site to see it. It's something you can go in and check every morning if you're an owner or operator. Very handy. It's going to give you the high level, your sales, your most popular beverages. Let's move to the next thing here. So you can see here some of the navigation. I'm not going to go through everything, but you're going to get this main dashboard navigation that's going to have your kegs and taps, sales and leaderboard, staff usage. And then if you have multiple locations, this is nice because you can see an overview dashboard of all your locations with the summary of the sales, and then you can just jump back and forth to the different locations to see individual reports. And then moving on. So this is kind of what that looks like. So this is not this. All right, I screwed up the slides. That's okay. This is actually the keg level report. So it tells you the velocity of your kegs, and this is by tap number, your most popular taps. Now what I noticed here, I thought this was interesting because sometimes you're going to see that over time, a certain tap number or group of tap numbers get the most traffic. And if you're changing out your beers with various frequency, you can see like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what I put on this tap, it always moves faster. Maybe it's in a different location. It depends on how big your spot is, whether that is useful data or not. So that could be interesting data to look at. And then over here, your keg levels, which something you may want to look at, and you can sort that by aging taps or fill levels. And you can see here if something's under, well, this one's 0. It turns red once it goes below 10%. So that's something you can look at remotely that's handy. Again, same data that's on the server, but useful remotely. And then the sales and leaderboard. So this is what you would see. This is probably what you would look at every day to see your sales for the previous 5 days. It's a 5-day running when you go weekly and then monthly, yearly. And then you can put any custom date range in there and you can kind of see how your sales are doing. And just jump in with any questions or anything. So I'm going to kind of move quickly. Staff card usage. So this is where you can go to see, I think Jason mentioned this, any unusual activity by your staff. So these are all cleaning cards, but you might want to look at somebody who's doing an unusual amount of volume during a time when you're not actually cleaning. I didn't have an example. There would be other types of cards, would be staff cards in here, and you can see if somebody's doing fill-ups and unusual volume there. So again, something you would want to monitor. And product reporting. So this product section here, you can go in, you can really dig into some of the data. You can see how many, actually I'm going to jump to the next slide here, which is kind of small, but you can see how many types of repours for a certain beverage. Again, you can run all these reports by different date ranges, and it shows you your most popular beverages here, the amount of volume for each one, repours, tastings. I think tastings, anything under 3 ounces is considered a tasting. And then it has a breakdown of like 3 to 6 ounces, that kind of thing. So you can go through all that data. You can export that out. You can also put in your cost here. So you'll see if you're using BKG, if you see that little add cost button there, and then the estimated profit is blank. It's not required, but if you want to go in there and you put in how much if you jump to the next slide here, how much you paid for that keg, the size of the keg, then we'll give you that estimated profit data. And, it's useful information if you're looking to see what your profit is. And then behind this, you see you can actually go in and just update all products, what the cost is. And you can do this over and over. So you might get different pricing for different kegs at different times. So as you go in, you actually set the date that you bought it, and our system will figure that out for when those pours come in to know, oh, well, I bought it at this price one time, and maybe a month later I bought that keg at a different price, and we calculate that out for you in the profit estimations. And does anybody do driver's license scanning? Anybody use? You do? How's that working out?
Great.
Do you require everybody to do it?
Yeah, so as a safety thing, I know it came up a little bit before. So we're a full service restaurant, so we require every single patron that's going to the tap hall to get their own card, and we scan an ID with every single card so that we know if there's 4 cards at the table and 5 people and there's 5 drinks, we can figure out who did not get. So just a tip for everybody else. But yeah, I mean, it works out really well.
Nice. Anyone else doing it? You don't like driver's license scanning?
No, we probably should do it.
Well, one of the benefits if you do scan it, besides
No, they're chargers.
yeah, on the charger.
And it also gives you demographics, so you know what your
Right.
customer age demographic
So it
is.
scans the driver's license automatically with the credit card?
No, well, so you're not scanning with the credit card on our terminal, but when you're activating a card, and it depends on what POS system you're using. If you're using a POS where you don't have the dual terminal, which is the POS terminal and the charger terminal might not be as useful. But so with Toast, you would be using the dual terminal and you could scan a driver's license when you're activating a card, and that's when it's going to tie that data to that person's data to the card, and we capture. That's where you can start getting this kind of reporting where you see what age demographics, and you can break that down by product. And then we also have customer profile data, so you can get revenue by zip code. You can get different general demographic data. So if I go to the next slide here, you'll have customer information. Skip over that. And then you can start getting reports like this, the breakdown of male, female, ages, and all these charts here, as long as you're collecting that data there. And then email reports, there's 2 automated reports you can set up in BKG. They'd be sent either daily, weekly, monthly. And if you skip over here, the 2 reports are, and it's pretty simple. I mean, a month-to-date sales, which is up here. I mean, it's just sending you 3 totals. Essentially, your month-to-date sale, and then your previous sale, and then your best month. And this way, you're getting that every day if you want it every day or weekly or however you want to set that up. And again, you can do that in BKG. You can set up additional staff as well. The second report is just a breakdown of your product performance for the month. So those are good reminders. Before I jump on this, you can set up, once you're set up as an owner, you can add additional staff we only have 2 permissions, owners and managers. Owners, the difference, they can add additional users. Managers, they can't add users or remove users. So most of your staff you would set up as manager or whoever you want access into the system. In the end, all the POS integrations, the workflow is the same. It's what it really comes down to, if you switch to the next slide, is this dual terminal versus single terminal. Well, there's 2 things I look at, dual terminal versus single terminal, and then product management. And those are the differences between the POS system. So the dual terminal you got here's a Toast terminal, here's our charger terminal. With Toast, there's no option to create the card on the POS terminal. So you got to start the tab on the POS terminal and then move over to our terminal to activate the card. Works totally fine. Most locations do it that way. Clover's the same way, so you need a dual terminal. Anything with Omnivore, which is Aloha, Posi Touch, Squirrel, those are all going to be dual terminals. With GoTab, then you can do it with a single terminal where you just, on GoTab's POS, you open the tab, and then you can add the card right into the POS terminal, hand it to the customer. So, I mean, it's just a preference thing, and whether you like the other features of GoTab versus Clover or PO or Toast.
Does GoTab eliminate the charger?
It does.
Completely eliminates it.
It does.
Okay.
I mean, I still recommend you have a charger. You're going to need one to create staff cards, or if you ever have to do a fallback or something like that. The other POS that's a single terminal is My Access Point. So again, you can create cards on the POS terminal. But those are the only 2. And then when it comes down to product management, this is where you have to load. I don't know if some of you probably use Untapped. That makes it super easy to populate the PourMyBeer system product database. But then depending on your POS, you may have to actually manually enter that data into your POS as well. And that would be Toast as one of those. So you have to manually add it to both systems. Clover has an automated product sync. So you add it to PourMyBeer system, we automatically sync it over to Clover. That's why that's probably, maybe Ed recommended it to you because that makes a pretty smooth process. GoTab, you don't have to worry about a product sync at all. They just accept whatever we send over to them. My Access Point is the same way. You don't have to worry about product sync there. So those are always the two differences as far as technically the way I look at POS integrations, and then you, like you said, you have to look at your location and your volume and the other features that you need from your POS. And I think everybody knows the POS workflow, but just so it starts with the POS, whether it's a dual terminal or a single terminal. Then you activate a card, give it to the customer, and then they can start pouring. And then as soon as that tab's closed, and even if you can pair multiple cards to a POS tab, and as soon as that tab's closed out, all those cards are deactivated. So that's something to keep in mind. You want that to happen because once the tab's closed, you don't want people to start pouring again. And then this is the product mapping app. So in the case of Toast or Podsy Touch or Aloha, what's the other one? Any of the ones that don't have product sync, this is where this extra step with the product mapping happens. So this is an app that lives on your PourMyBeer server. So you add a new product into the PourMyBeer system. So you add the product in the PourMyBeer system, and then you go into your POS, make sure you add it there. This is where you have to go take the extra step, open up this app. We'll have a shortcut on your PourMyBeer server. Open this up. If the names match exactly, there's a process that runs I think it's like every 12 hours or something like that, that just looks for exact match product names in your POS, and then it'll match it up. But if you're like adding a product today and you want to go live with it today, you have to go into this mapping tool, and then you find the product that you just added, and then you hit the map button. It's going to pull up a menu item from your POS, and then you're just going to click a box. So it's just a bunch of it goes fairly quickly. You can search the product name here to narrow things down, and the filtering function works very well. So, but that's that extra step that you have to do if you don't have auto product sync. Any questions on this? Is anybody doing this? I mean, obviously, if you're using Okay, so he's mapping them right now. Go watch him map some products, and then, all right. POS integration fire drills. I'm going to go through this really quickly. You had any fire drill issues? You have to turn off the POS. He's shaking his head.
I've done all of them.
You've done them all. All right. So you know the drill.
We all know.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it happens, and it's not just on. I mean, your POS can go down. Your internet can go out. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, the major causes obviously are internet outages or internet slowness. You do not want to have your PourMyBeer server on Wi-Fi. That's the biggest threat to this kind of a problem, especially if your Wi-Fi is shared with guests and you get a bunch of guests in there and then everything starts to slow down. It can also be network issues. We've seen where people put certain devices on our network, and that can mess things up. So you'll know when there's a problem. You'll see it on the screen. You'll see PourMyBeer is off, this message right here, and then you'll know you have a problem. If it's not internet, it's probably network or something, or possibly the POS has an issue, which Toast has had in the last couple weeks. So the process is, and I'm just going to go through this, but our support team can help you do this. But once you've done it a couple times, then you know how to do it. You go into the PourMyBeer server. Under the server configuration, you find this hotel interface, and then you switch from PB Magic to standard mode. Save that. Let the configuration update to the screens. And then what's going to happen there is anybody say you got 100 people in your establishment, and they all have tabs open up. Once you turn off that integration, that tab still is going to work, but it's no longer going to communicate to your POS. And this is where So like just show here, that's what you would see if you put the card on the terminal. That's where you need a terminal, or it's handy to have one if you have to go into this. So from that point forward, you've turned off the integration, no more communication back to the POS. The person's tab is still open in your POS, but there's no more communication of the balance. So what you're going to want to do is make sure everybody who leaves, you get that card from them so they can keep pouring. It'll still work. But you're going to want to collect that card, put it on a terminal, see what the balance is, open up their tab and let's say Toast or something, see what the last balance was before it stopped communicating, and then just update that charge for the difference. And then as far as going forward for new customers that are coming in, you would want to just create an online bill pay card or an online prepay card, whichever works for your. What do you typically do if you did have an outage? Do you go switch to prepay?
Bill pay.
You continue to do bill pay? Okay. And then the tricky part is once whatever the issue is comes back on, like so, say your internet's out or some problem with the network, you want to collect everybody's cards. You want to close out those tabs before you turn the integration on. You might want to just run the rest of the night without your integration on to make it simpler, to have the same process. So make sure people are coming back to the check-in station, giving their card in so that you can put it on the terminal, see what the charge is, manually add it to the POS, and go from there before you re-enable the integration, which was the next step here. It's just reversing what we did before. You go back into the server, go to Hotel Interface, select PBMagic, hit save. One other task you want to do is go to your task and if you don't know where Task Manager is, our support team can help, but you can find it. We can talk about it later if you want. Look for this PourMyBeer, and this is 1.2.2. We're actually on 1.2.7, but whatever the most active one is that says running here, you would just hit your right mouse button and then hit restart. Usually takes a couple of minutes if you have a lot of prepay cards where it does a sync from our system into our integration and then syncs all that up. Could take 1 to 5 minutes depending on how much data you have in there. I know I went through that quickly, but when you're in an emergency, you can call our support team and they'll help you through that. And I definitely recommend practicing this. I think we send emails out once a month with the instructions there. Any questions on that?
What does integration have to do with bandwidth?
With what?
Bandwidth and integration, what is the relationship that is, I'm back to bandwidth.
Yeah, you're the bandwidth guy. Yeah. Well, I think we mentioned this before. It's the communication with your POS API. That's all it is. So every time I go to the beer wall, if I have a paired tab with Toast, every time I put my card on the reader, we're actually going out to Toast API and checking to see if that tab's still open. So that's where your bandwidth is needed. So every time someone puts a card on the reader, we're saying, Toast, is this still an active tab? If it is, then we're going to let them pour. If it's not, we're going to give them an error message. So that's where part of the bandwidth is. And the other part of it is pulling the tickets onto your charger terminal. So every time you're checking someone in, you put your card on the terminal, your admin card on the terminal, or staff card, and you say open tickets. We go back out to Toast and say, give me all the open tickets. So those are the two things that are happening back and forth. Well, one more thing, actually, and then it's the posting the transactions. So every time someone's pouring, the second that pour ends, we're sending that transaction back to the POS. So that's happening. Yeah, it's a lot of little transactions, but depending on how busy you are, how many people you have, how many taps you have, there can be a lot of transactions.
But that's not necessarily, that's not like a necessity to do. You can always do it without the integration.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
For most people, is that what people prefer, or most people do like dual or no integration or integration?
I'm willing to guess we're the only non-integrated people.
You need integration.
Yeah. What do you think, your non-integration?
Well, we've been doing it for 5.5 years. Mm-hmm. It's an extra step. It's no big deal.
Right.
And we have been crazy busy over those years. But one of the beauties, I think, of the way the system was originally designed is you don't need internet at all.
Right.
Honestly, we went without internet, we went without power for an hour and a half, and I was still serving beer at one point.
Yeah.
Because we lost power and I had battery
You
backups.
have battery backups, and then you don't
We
need
went
anything.
offline mode on our POS.
It's a pretty bulletproof system without an integration.
Right, you don't even need internet
Right.
on a daily basis for
Right.
that to work.
The only thing I get paid. You need to come back eventually.
And again, I think that comes down to how much volume you do through your location, how many customers are in that at any given time. That those little things that speed things up at checkout might make a big difference if you have 500 people a night as opposed to 100 people a night. You know, it all depends.
I don't think.
I mean, in a really bad scenario, it can take. We've heard, up to like a minute or so.
Exactly. No, exactly.
I mean, and that's bad. But anywhere in between there, I mean, it's not that horrible. If you have really good internet, it's going to show up right away. You're not going to have any.
Just try it out, see how it works for you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Find your own rhythm.
yeah. I don't think there's no long-term commitment there. You can always turn it off. And Jason, you can attest. We've only had POS integrations really wide scale in the last 2.5 years, something like that. So everything before that was no integrations.
No.
And that's hundreds of locations running without integrations just fine. Yeah. It's a convenience thing, but it's not necessary to run your business, for sure. Any other?
Bill pay is real quick.
Yeah, so bill pay is an open tab. It's our terminology for an open tab type card as opposed to a prepay card which has a fixed value on it, which is more gift card style. And that is about it. Again, our support team, there's our hours. You can call them all the time, and they love to hear from you.
They do.
They do. It's a great team.
Unless there are any other questions, huge applause to
Yeah. You know what? I'm giving these out. I don't care.